So News Corporation, otherwise known as News Corp, was a holding company established in the late 1970s by Rupert Murdoch for News Limited. It's a business within the industry of the mass media content, so it's owned newspaper magazine companies such as Times and Wall Street Journal, cable TV stations such as Foxtel, news stations, social media companies, etc., etc. The company started off in Australia and eventually in the early 1970s moved over to the US and made a string of acquisitions. Acquisitions such as New York Post, 20th Century Fox, Metro Media, which eventually got rebranded to Fox Broadcasting Company. Because of these acquisitions, it very quickly established itself as one of the largest media companies within the US. As of 2014, it is the fourth largest media company within the country. Given it's such a large organisation, a number of accounting and audit oversights is bound to occur, which my teammates will now demonstrate.
News Corp's corporate governance failures have been well documented, with the biggest of these failures being in relation to the phone hacking scandal that took place in the UK. In the UK, News Corp International's News of the World newspaper was involved in both phone hacking and the bribery of police officers in order to obtain news stories. The targets of these phone hacking incidents included celebrities, politicians, and even members of the British royal family. Although earlier probes by British authorities thought that the hackings were limited to these groups of people, the victims of the phone hackings were actually far greater. These victims included the relatives of dead soldiers, victims of the London bombings, and even a murdered schoolgirl. A formal public government inquiry into the scandal found that actions had been made at News of the World to cover up the phone hacking incidents. Further to this, it was found that many within the leadership of both News of the World and the larger News Corp were fully aware that the phone hacking was occurring and made no attempts to alter the organisation's culture.
An audit failure is a situation in which an audit wrongly states that a company's accounts are correct when in fact they contain mistakes due to errors or fraud. Auditing a large media organisation like News Corp can be difficult as many would just simply scratch the surface by checking the basic accounts such as payable and receivable, following up where money went, and asking the necessary questions to managers where authorization was required. It's almost impossible to know if there is a scandal happening unless you already suspect something and go looking for it specifically. With the news of the scandal spreading, questions started to come up about their audit committee and their independence to the company. This is why News Corp didn't have any issues detected straight away. The internal audit activities could have been questionable in terms of the scope and capabilities, as it may have been just a quick look over of the activities instead of a more thorough investigation.
The News Corp scandal had affected many different areas in the world, and it impacted greatly on the accounting department of many businesses. On the 19th of July, ABC Premium News had stated that the share price of News Corp had fallen down by more than 4% to $14.96 a few days after the scandal had been announced. The investors of the world had seen this in the media, and future capital gains would be detrimentally impacted by their tarnished reputation. An article in Investment Week dated on the 11th of July has showed that the shares in the other company that they tried to acquire fell by 10%, and that this just proves the scandal had a toxic effect to not only their business but other businesses throughout the world, and that their future operations and cash flows would be severely impacted later on.
The consequences as a result of the scandal was that News Corporation's reputation suffered severely. It was a highly publicized, highly criticized scandal, and as a result of the high publicity, News Corporation decided to withdraw their takeover bid of British Sky Broadcasting on 13 July 2011, citing that it was too difficult to progress in this climate. Then furthermore, on 28th of June 2012, Rupert Murdoch, who was the chairman, made the announcement that because of the recent events and recent scandals, they were going to split the assets of News Corporation into two new publicly traded companies, 21st Century Fox and News Corp. 21st Century Fox were going to be responsible for the media activities, and News Corp was going to be responsible for the publishing activities. Basically, this all came about because they wanted a fresh start. Shareholders were worried their reputation was tarnished. Rupert Murdoch made a statement that it was done in a bid to unlock greater long-term shareholder value and to basically make a fresh start.
So in summary, due to the scandal-driven facade, News Corp resulted in the organisation having split into two main branches. News Limited, which does predominantly news mediums, and 21st Century Fox, which currently does media content.
The main corporate governance failure in relation to News Corp was the encouragement of the phone hacking culture in the pursuit of news stories at the News of the World newspaper, and the fact that they had targeted the most vulnerable and helpless members of society. The fact that the organisation was aware of and fine with the targeting of bombing victims, the relatives of dead soldiers, and murdered schoolgirls shows the extent in which corporate governments failed at News Corp. This failure was further complemented by the attempted cover-up actions made by those at News of the World.
Auditing is a way of assessing the effectiveness of the company's internal controls. It's vital for business success and stakeholder confidence. However, an audit can't always guarantee that everything is fine, and audit failures are possible, as seen in this case with News Corp, where the audit didn't pick up anything straight away.
The accounting failure at News Corp resulted in their future financial statements steadily declining, where investors, as one of the major stakeholders in the business, rescinded their money and sold off their shares. The company had a smeared reputation and future revenues were at risk, underpinned by the management's boldness to ascertain the stories no matter the cost.
Basically, the consequences as a result of the entire scandal was that News Corp withdrew their bid to take over British Sky Broadcasting, and they split the assets of News Corp into two publicly traded companies, News Corp and 21st Century Fox.